If you're a small business owner, you'll know just what it's like to be the chief everything officer. HR, payroll, employee benefits. Well, Gusto can do all of that for you. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all in one, remote friendly, and incredibly easy to use. It's quick and simple to switch to Gusto. Just transfer your existing data to get up and running fast. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonsoccer and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's gusto.com/lockedonsoccer.
The world's biggest soccer tournament has arrived, and you can trade the entire tournament on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every match from the opening stage all the way to the final. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code CUP26 to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn. Welcome to How We're the podcast. And with the summer ticking along nicely and the World Cup hotting up, it feels like with some of the recent rumours, it might be the calm before the storm, and everything is potentially about to go a bit crazy in the transfer market. But before that happens, it does give us a good chance to catch up with a few people we haven't spoken to in a while. And we have to go back to November, which I was distraught about since we last caught up with today's guest, which is far too long, as he always provides brilliant insights to how things are feeling in and around the place, behind the scenes. And I have to admit, it's been far too long since we heard him asking his questions at the press conferences as well. So we are very pleased to welcome the Premier League's North East sports reporter, which means we can only be speaking to the brilliant Andy Sixsmith. Hello, Andy.
Hello, man. Yeah, I was just saying to you off camera, wasn't I? I thought I'd listened back to my last podcast a few weeks ago because I was like, I swear I've done something wrong here. I've said something. I've annoyed someone somewhere along the line. But you know what? I thought, nah, maybe I just haven't done a good job here. But I thought, no, I've done all right. So, glad to be back on, mate. And only because I always get an absolutely belter intro from yourself. So you can hold the payment.
Well, it would have been, but I screwed up at the end, so I'm going to keep that in.
You always screw up my name. It's fine, mate. I'm getting used to it.
I know. I don't know why I do that right at the end. So maybe that's why you keep turning us down. I'm gonna put it to that why you haven't been on for a while. But anyway, how's it going? It's been a while.
Good, mate. And you know what? It does feel weird every single week not being in the usual twos and throws of being in the press conferences and the player interviews. It normally takes me a good 2 to 3 weeks. My wife would say this as well, of being like just trying to almost assimilate to life without a Thursday, Friday press conference, a Saturday, Sunday match day, whatever it might be. And especially given the way that that last season ended. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the most incredible end to the season for Sunderland. I'm pretty sure it took me about 10 days anyway to come down from the sheer just adrenaline rush of that afternoon at the Stadium of Light. Yeah, it's been good, mate. Been nice to switch off. I do host the cricket over at the T20, which has been nice. Finished off a hosting at the Red Bulls as well towards the end of their season. So it's been a little bit quieter over the last couple of weeks. So been nice to just kind of, I'd say take a rest, but kind of been just hammering the TikToks and the socials really, because it's not like there's been much to talk about really, is there?
Tell us about it. We were kind of all a bit relaxed doing some fun things, and then it kicked off. But just in terms of the World Cup, are you getting into it? Is the time difference getting in the way, or what?
You know what? Well, didn't we have this conversation? I know it was a long time ago, but back in November when me and you were talking about international football and being like, we're not into it, are we? But you know what? Credit where credit's due. This World Cup's popping off. And there's some great stories coming out of it. I was as skeptical as the next man about the fact that, 48-team World Cup. And thought maybe it's a bit too much, but you wouldn't have had the stories of Cabo Verde. You wouldn't have had the stories coming through of like even a Curacao appearing and scoring the first goal, like all of that sort of stuff. I think it's been a really good World Cup so far, at least on the pitch. I think off the pitch is a bit of a palaver given the ticket price and everything, but it's been really good. I've caught little bits and pieces. I have to say, I made some group predictions that were terrible from start to finish. I think that most of them have gone wrong. Apart from Portugal, I was delighted I got that right. They didn't top their group, did they? Colombia did, who were one of my dark horses for the tournament. But yeah, my group predictions ended up being largely flat on the backsides. But it's been good, mate. It's been enjoyable. England obviously have been a kind of a usual, dare I say, I think, where they've been hammed up quite a bit. And obviously they were very good against Croatia second half. And then Ghana, they were a bit flat. I thought Ghana were very, very good. I thought they were very flat against Panama for 60 minutes. We'll be interesting to see how they go tonight against a certain Noah Siddiqui in the DR Congo, which will be interesting to see. But you know what? The thing is, I've just been delighted to see the Northeast players do really, really well. I mean, I'm sure you guys at Sunderland will be celebrating this as well, but a certain Nick Voltemade, who's a hero for you guys, obviously not having a great cameo for Germany the other night, but to see Brian Brobby just bully every single defender in the World Cup, to see Chemsdean Talby as well, on the flip side of Netherlands going out, scoring in the penalty shootout and assisting for Morocco the other night was really, really good. I think the Northeast lads have shown up really, really well in this tournament. Wilson Isidore, can we just talk about that goal for Haiti?
Yeah.
Ball's still moving. I think somewhere in the world. But yeah, it's been really, really good to see. So I've tried to tune in where I possibly could to watch the Northeast players. And I've always had a weird soft spot for the Netherlands as well, given their Oranje dance, which I always try and replicate in my kitchen and living room, thanks to, much to the disgust of my wife, Rebecca. But yeah, been good, mate. I haven't stayed up to watch the 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock ones, but I've watched the late ones.
Yeah, and we will touch on Wilson Isidore before we finish up. And you did remind me, you're talking about backing people. I was gutted because I backed Japan to beat Brazil the other day, and I thought for a while it was going to happen. But
mate, so did I. I backed Japan to go even all the way to. I thought they'd get through the next round, and then get knocked out by England or Mexico in the round after. So the Blue Samurai have let us both down, sadly.
Yeah, I thought I was a genius for all of 40 minutes or whatever it was. But anyway. Just going back to way back to last summer when we kind of first talked to you last summer, because I remember that first conversation when you were just saying how much you were looking forward to having 2 Northeast sides in the Premier League. So, I mean, was it as good as you expected?
I'll just reiterate that again this summer. So ahead of next season, I'm looking forward to having 2 Premier League teams from the Northeast still up in the top line. Mate, it was better than I expected. Obviously, it wasn't a great season from a black and white half of the Northeast, of course. But from a Sunderland perspective, to see you guys back up there, but to see what you did. I mean, I still maintain, of course, I'm biased towards the region, but I still maintain that Sunderland were the story of last season. I know Arsenal finally won the title again. I know there were stories in Brentford and Bournemouth. I thought Bournemouth, considering everything, Brentford were magnificent. I had Brentford down for going down last season. And I thought Leeds quietly did a really, really good job as well last season. But Sunderland and Regis Lebris were the story of last season. And I know that I'll be accused of bias there, given my Northeast connections, but how can they not be? I mean, you're predicted to go down by a lot. By the way, not by me. I predicted in July that Sunderland would stay up. And I just point that out straight away. I didn't think you'd stay up and make Europa League, but I thought you'd stay up.
I'll go back and listen now.
Yeah, go back and listen, and you chase up my receipts, can you? But I mean, there were just so many high points that I struggle to kind of. I'll trip them off the tongue. Wilson's last minute winner, I think, against Bournemouth when was it Bournemouth or Brentford? One of the two. I always get those two mixed up. But when his daughter had just been born the night before, that was an incredible moment. I thought, the win down at Stamford Bridge was absolutely incredible. The draw with Arsenal, I thought, was absolutely incredible as well. There was some brilliant, but I think they were eclipsed by, what happened on the final day of the season. Because as you went into the final few weeks, especially that win against Everton down at the Hill Dickinson, and Chelsea on the final day at a expected raucous Stadium of Light, I just thought Sunderland are going to make Europe here. I think other results could work out. I didn't think you'd make Europa League. I thought it was going to be Conference League. But to make the Europa League was just the cherry on top of the ice and on top of the cake that was Sunderland's epic first season back in the Premier League. And one day, do they still do DVDs? I don't know. But one day there'll be a DVD, a VHS, you name it, of Sunderland's first season back in the Premier League. And how Regis Lebris did not win Manager of the Season, Well, I am entirely sure. I knew Mikel Arteta was going to win it, but I can't believe that Regis didn't win that, because what a job he's done. What a job everyone's done off the pitch and on the pitch at Sunderland. Cracking season. And also just brilliant from my perspective to have both Newcastle and Sunderland back up there. And of course the Derbies, but I wasn't going to mention them.
Yeah, well, just before we do get into them, I was just about to say that, but I was just about to say, I bet you were pretty excited at the prospect of having all three in the Premier League at one point, because Middlesbrough used their extra life, didn't they?
Well, they used about 8 lives, didn't they? And they still didn't get up. My God, what were Borough playing at? You know, they had the outside. They made the playoffs just about on the final day of the season. That was one life that they spent up. Then obviously, you know, the whole Spygate, which I have never, ever seen anything of the like in my life, most certainly going on there. Southampton obviously getting kicked out. You're thinking Borough, it's written in the stars, isn't it, that they're going to go. And you know what? I sorry if any Middlesbrough fans are listening to this. I'm quite glad that Hull came up because of everything that happened. I think that would have been really unfair on Hull if they'd have missed out at the last hurdle. So it probably worked out. And also, Chris, I think everyone was secretly crossing their fingers and hoping for a Southampton-Middlesbrough derby ×2 next season. And that's what's going to happen. And wow, that is Thunder Eckert's still in charge, which is looking like he's going to be, and Kim Alberg's still in charge at Middlesbrough. That's going to be a bit spicy down at St Mary's back end of November. They've buried that fixture, haven't they? So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. But yes, it could have been 3, but you know what? It probably wouldn't have weirdly changed my life too much. I think I still would have been mainly focusing on Sunderland and Newcastle, because obviously they're kind of the clubs within my distinct region. And then obviously Middlesbrough are kind of my third club as well. But you know what? Middlesbrough are building something nice, mate. So it might be next season, might be the season after, but I still get to cover them for the BBC. So small silver lines and all that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because actually, if they'd gone on to win it, it probably would have been settled in the courts, which I don't think.
Oh, it would have been nasty, wouldn't it? It was already nasty, and you know what? The EFL, I know people slagged them off for it. I know this is completely off tangent from a Sunderland perspective, but I know people slag the EFL. What are they meant to do in that situation? I thought they acted quite quickly, actually, given the situation. And the only thing that they could do was to kick Southampton out of the playoffs. And yeah, the points deduction was kind of the added one on top, but they had to do that. And it had to be a Middlesbrough Hull final. And after that, I think the right outcome happened. I think the EFL breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief, given the fact that Hull came up. And yeah, it'd be nice to see Hull back up in the Premier League, and Hull, Coventry and Ipswich, I think might be one of those seasons next season when we see all 3 go straight back down. But yeah, we'll come on to that, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, mate, I mean, just quickly actually on the Premier League, because obviously working for Premier League Productions, but
yes,
talking about the
Premier League studios now, Chris. Premier League
studios, sorry.
Have moved now out of IMG.
Misspoke. But
sorry, I'm only contractually obliged. I've only stopped saying FPL.
Keep us right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Premier League season in general, based on the couple of seasons before that, you talked about Sunderland being the story, you talked about Bournemouth being a story, Brentford being a story, the going to the wire at the bottom on the last day, Spurs, West Ham, the race for the title. Did the Premier League need a year like that?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. We spoke about it, didn't we, last summer, about the fact that there was this trend, this worrying trend developing, that there was 3 up, 3 down, basically, every single season for about 3 years, going back to 2022, I think it was, 2021 even. And I mean, just weirdly enough, you kind of see the likes of Nottingham Forest stay up then, and Forest established themselves as kind of like they are now 100% a Premier League side when they, especially getting through the semi-finals of the Europa League like they did as well. It was a fantastic season for Forest, given everything that was happening off the pitch. And it did need it, the Premier League as a competition. I think it needed that surprise package. It needed that underdog story that was going to be in there. And yeah, we've got to give credit to Leeds as well there. You know, Leeds came up, Daniel Farker, I think many had him down as one of the first managers to go. I mean, there were rumours surrounding him as soon as Leeds got promoted that he was going to lose his job down at Leeds. So to still be in a job at Leeds, but also have thrived in the manner that they did, and not just scrape survival, they stayed up by a couple of weekends. So great to see that, but I don't think anyone would have predicted to get back round to Sunderland what Sunderland did. I mean, to have that happen and to have Sunderland break up into the top 7 as well, I think is an absolute blessing in disguise for the Premier League. I said it last season, I'll say it again. The Premier League needs a strong Northeast in it. And again, I am biased because I'm from and I've always lived in this region, and I'll always fiercely defend and be protective of this region. There's a video actually out on socials where I probably go a little bit too far in defending the Northeast. which people can watch out on my socials. But as far as I'm concerned, the Premier League does need a strong Northeast. It is the best region in the country. It has the most passionate fans. It has two of the biggest historical clubs in the country as well. And as far as I'm concerned, what Sunderland did last season is ideal in that it needed the derbies back. It needed those days. And I had one of my producers at PLS or PLP back last season. See, even I do it. But one of my producers, when we were doing a feature ahead of the derby, the first derby at the Stadium of Light, and he just rang me, he was talking me through the idea for the feature and asking me what my thoughts were. And he said, you know what, Andy, I'm going to tell you something. We needed this. I've missed the Tyne Wear derby, the Wear Tyne derby. I have absolutely missed that. It's a hell of a derby. It's an absolutely blockbuster of a derby. And it was, both occasions. I can't vouch for the second one because I was getting married on that day when Sunderland beat Newcastle 2-1 at St James's. But the first one was epic. Absolutely epic. I know it wasn't a great game, but just the occasion. So yeah, the Northeast needed to have two clubs in the Premier League. And I think the Premier League, like you rightly said, needed to have, three teams. I know obviously two only stayed up last season, but they need three teams to stay up. I just, with all due respect to Coventry, to Ipswich, and to Hull as well, I just can't see anyone pulling a Sunderland. And that is now a phrase that's being well worn now after last season. I just can't see it now. I can't see it this season. I hope I'm proved wrong. I really hope I'm proved wrong, but I just can't see it next season.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it was November when we spoke to you. It was about a third of the way through the season.
You keep reminding me of that.
Yeah, far too long. I was genuinely shocked. But we'd only been beaten 3 times in the first 12 games at that point.
Yeah.
The first derby was around the corner.
Yes.
And like I said, I know you cover all the Northeast teams, but it was, of course, fantastic to have the derby back. The game at the Stadium of Light, let's say it wasn't the best game generally. It wasn't, the best kind of, I suppose, feature for the derby.
Spectacle for the Premier League. No, it wasn't.
But the game at St James's Park, I think, that was a proper advert for the derby, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. I'll tell you a story about the Sunderland, about the derby at St James's Park. So like I've just said, it's my wedding day. So literally it was, I think the kickoff, we're 2 hours ahead in South Africa. So the kickoff was about 3 hours, 4 hours before my wedding, actual ceremony. And I'm getting ready with my best man and my dad. So my dad's a massive Sunderland fan. My brother, massive Newcastle fan. One of my other best men, massive Newcastle fan. And Anthony Gordon obviously giving Newcastle the lead. My brother's in a really good mood. One of my other best men are in a good mood. My dad's in a furious mood. And then all of a sudden, Sunderland equalised. Everyone's round about like, you know what, it's Andy's wedding day. It's probably a good thing this if it ends up in a draw. And the photographers are coming in as they do to, photograph you getting ready and stuff like that with your best men and your groom's party. And my dad is just keeping up to date with BBC Newcastle with Barnsley's commentary. I don't know if it's the first time Nick Barnes' voice ever been heard in South Africa. His wonderful voice, his wonderful tones. And he's listening to it. And obviously Brobby goes and scores. And my dad, I've never seen him move so fast as a 69, nearly 70-year-old man. He starts celebrating, scares the crap out of the photographer. My brother has to turn around and just say, I need to go outside and I need to collect my thoughts here. I'm in trouble. My other best man's got his hand slumped on the floor, Grimesy. It was, if someone had got a picture, it would have been like that picture out of Manchester all those years ago where like every time you look at it, there's something different happening. It was quite incredible, but yeah, wonderful win for Sam. To do the double as well is absolutely stunning. And I think looking back at the highlights, Sunderland probably deserved it that day as well at the St James's Park. So, and probably just about edged it at the Stadium of Light too. I thought Newcastle were very, very poor that day. So yeah, it was just, again, to go back to it, I think spectacle can be kind of divided up into two different areas. Spectacle of that blood and thunder, the build up and the atmosphere and the passion and the kind of tribalistic nature of the fans waiting outside the stadium, and then the spectacle on the pitch. Off the pitch, 10 out of 10, no notes. Don't think it could have gone any better from a safety perspective, but also from just a pure put Northeast on the map perspective. On the pitch, yeah, just hoping for a couple of better games, I would have said. At least one better game at the Stadium of Light next season. But it was a pretty good game at St James, I have to say, from what I saw of the highlights.
Well, I think all of us in red and white will happily accept another couple of games like that and 6 points again. But anyway, before we get into the end of the season, I think that's a good time for us to take a quick break. So we'll be back very soon.
The world's biggest soccer tournament has arrived, and you can trade the entire tournament on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every match from the opening stage all the way to the final. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code CUP26 to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
And welcome back to How We're the Podcast. And we're just about to get into the business end of the season, if you like, and how it played out with Andy Sixsmith. And just want to talk about when safety was confirmed, really, because it was that brilliant performance away to Leeds United.
Yeah.
But the really interesting thing is that there was potential to, of course, we did go on to achieve something spectacular. But there was all this potential about what we could do, winning the games and things like that. And Enzo Lefebvre was coming out saying, oh, yeah, we're starting to prepare for next season almost in these games. So it was incredible how they just took a step back, looking at next season, looking at how to evolve the squad at the same time as still trying to achieve.
I'll make 2 points about that, mate. One, Enzo Lefebvre. We're going to come back to him, but I know Granit Xhaka. Are we allowed to say Granit's name still? Granit Xhaka was player of the season, undoubtedly. Enzo Lefebvre, right alongside him. Enzo Lefebvre was my player of the season for Sunderland. I thought he was magnificent. But going back to your kind of point there, you know what? That comes from a top down. It comes from Florent Ghisolfi, obviously previously Christian Speakman as well, down to Regis Lebris and his coaching staff, and filters down to the players as well. It's that calm, level-headed, composed attitude towards where they're at. Not getting too far ahead of themselves, not getting too far behind, not getting too high, not getting too low. And it smacked to me within only a couple of months of the season starting that this was a squad that actually had bought well and truly into that. And it's interesting you make that point about the comments after the Leeds game when, you know, any time that Europe was mentioned or anything like that, it was very much like, look, all right, it's a cliche, we'll take one each game as it comes, but also we're thinking about kind of next season and what this club can do. It was almost like they'd pretty much accepted, we are a Premier League club. Not just accepted it, they believed it as well. They believed it from minute one that they were a Premier League club, that they deserved to be a Premier League club, but also deserved to be not just surviving, but higher up too. So it wasn't surprising really to hear those sorts of comments come out from Enzo, who's a very, very calm sort of person anyway, very, very intelligent bloke, very, very kind of quick thinker. And he is almost Regis Lebris, apart from Granit. He's almost like his general on the pitch. In that sense, everything Regis asks him to do, Enzo Lefebvre, he's carried it out to the nth degree, whether he's playing left wing, just behind the strikers, centre midfield, up front at times as well. I think he appeared. Left back he's played at times. Like everywhere he's been, he has carried it out to the nth degree. So it wasn't any surprise to hear those sorts of comments. And I think whether it's Enzo, whether it's Wilson Isidore, whether it's Brian Robbie, whether it's Chemsdean Talby, Dan Ballard, Robin Roos, doesn't matter who the player was. I think most of them, if not all of them, would have said that because it just feeds down from Florent and Christian all the way down to the bottom and towards the players. And it's I think that should fill Sunderland fans just full of optimism for not just the season gone, but for seasons to come as well. I just think it's an incredible club, an incredibly run club from top to bottom. And the fact that those comments kind of reach and come out of the players, I think sometime Christian and Florent and Regis as well will have sat back and listened to those comments and thought, yeah, we're doing a job here with a smile on the face. It was excellent to hear.
Yeah, well, I saw your comment recently about Enzo Lefebvre. I can't remember when it was, but you posted something about how good Enzo.
A lot about Enzo Lefebvre.
Yeah, we'll touch on him while we've mentioned him because talking about a story arc for a player in the across a season. He started the season on the bench, and in pre-season it was like rumours going, well, would he get in the team? And he seemed to have been bombed out a little bit. Forced his way back in and then went on to become, one of Sunderland's most important players. But and the other thing about Enzo Lefebvre, tell you what, if France have to win this World Cup to justify to me why he isn't in that World Cup squad.
I know. I mean, look, and this is with all due respect to Enzo, the fact that we are talking about why has Enzo Lefebvre not made that French squad, and I've seen everyone but one of the French games, and they are an incredible team. They are one of the best international teams I think I've seen since, 90s Brazil. pretty much, or probably 2010 Spain, I would have said. But the fact that we're talking about why is Enzo not in that squad just showcases what a season he has had. And there's another word I want to use for him, Chris: versatility. The man can play, and it's not just the fact he can drop into these positions. He excels in these positions as well. And that, to me, says so much about what an intelligent player he is. He is so, like I just made the point there, Regis Lebris gives him his plan and he executes it to literally the most minute of details. He does everything. He controls the tempo of the games. He works his arse off. He backtrack. I mean, he's fantastic to watch work himself to the bone for 95 minutes. He's got penalties. He's got assists. He's got set pieces. He's got a tackle on him. He's got a shot. He's got an assist. I struggle to see a weakness in Enzo Lefebvre. And this is probably me being a bit of hyperbole kicking in, but I'm going to go ahead with it anyway. Enzo Lefebvre is Sunderland's Bernardo Silva. I've said it all season. He's that type of player, works himself to the bone, mercurially talented, super intelligent on a football pitch, works well with a manager. Yeah, I genuinely think he was one of the Premier League unsung heroes last season. I don't think Sunderland would have ended up on the same number of points without him. And yeah, to think that he was on the bench in the first couple of weeks of the season is quite remarkable. And once he did assimilate to the Premier League, I think, like I said before, I think Granit's played Premier League before. I think Enzo arguably was maybe even a touch above, given he's never played Premier League before and he just came to it and stuck to it. There's no surprise to hear him being linked. Sorry. And he was linked with the likes of Liverpool and other teams as well. No surprise of that. No surprise. I think it's a great praise for him, but I really hope to see him at Sunderland for many, many years to come. And also, I think maybe a future captain as well.
Yeah, interesting. I think the only thing missing from your list was a Panenka that he's missing from his game.
I didn't want to talk about that. I did mention penalties and the thought crossed my mind, but he'll never do that. Actually, you know what? He probably will. He probably will do it again. I was thinking for it next time.
If you sit money on pre-season friendly, so yes. If you could on him.
I noticed he smashed the next penalty in though. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, look, let's get on to that Chelsea game because you've already touched on it a little bit, and you spoke with Regis Lebris ahead of that Chelsea game, and he said in that interview, I think he said that Sunderland qualifying for Europe would be his biggest achievement of his career.
Yeah.
And we were all very giddy about just the thought of it before the game.
Yeah.
You could tell we were very giddy after the game. But as someone who reported on that, you talked to the manager before the game, so you had all the build up.
Yeah.
You were there reporting on this. Can you sum it up from someone who just says, well, I'm attending this kind of sporting event, if you like, and kind of sum it up?
I'll sum it up in one word, and I'll obviously go into detail because you know me, I like to talk, but the one word is epic. Absolutely epic. From start to finish of what that was. The club got it so spot on. I think Regis only gave me, in fairness, that wonderful line about the fact that, it would be his best achievement in his career because I'd provided him with a few donuts beforehand. I gave him and the club, Chris at any sporting moments, designed me a couple of cards for the club, just for the media staff and for Regis and the players and the staff, just to say thank you from me for being so good with me all season. So his eyes lit up when the donuts came into the room from deep north.
It was a sugar rush then, was it?
Yeah, he was already dead happy about it. And either that or thinking back to Spurs, West Ham, Lasagna Gate, all of it. I had to explain that to him. He didn't know too much about that. But I swear they weren't rigged at all. They were just delicious donuts. So he was probably on a sugar rush when he said that. But yes, that final day, like Regis, his other comment was, if the planets align. He used it in his press conference as well, and then he used it in the pre-match interview for Sky on the day. And it was like one of those phrases where you're like, has Regis just learned this phrase and he's now just shoehorning it into every single interview? But he was right. If the planets align, obviously all the other results had to go Sunderland's way, Brighton and Brentford as well, and Bournemouth too, I think it was too. But Brighton and Brentford more certainly. And just going into that day, I remember, Chris, driving up. I'd obviously done the press conference, done the interview with Regis, who was just the best way I can describe him is he was exactly the same as he was when I sat down with him in his office last July. He was exactly the same. He was so calm and so, look, we want to do this for the fans because, the fans do everything for us. So we need to give something back. And he said the exact same thing to me in July, and now you were chasing Europa League or European qualification. So the build-up was great from that perspective. And I remember driving in to the Stadium of Light, and this would have been quite early, on the day, obviously, to kind of get myself set and everything. And the streets were already lined, and people are out there with the flares and everything. And I never normally do this. I know local journalists do it and some other journalists do it, but I never go out to get the players walking in because it normally clashes with us doing team news hits or anything like that. But I thought, I want to go out and get a taste of this atmosphere outside the Stadium of Light as the players walk into the stadium. And wow. I mean, wow. The flares going off, the chants. Some of them were a bit unsavoury towards Newcastle, so just had to block my ears on those ones. But, it was just an incredible sight. And to see the players walk in and to see their reaction to that, you knew it hit a nerve. And at that point, I turned around to one of the lads and was like, they're winning today. They're 100% winning. Now, they don't have any justification or any, control over what happens elsewhere. But Sunderland are winning today, and they're going to win comfortably too, because the players it was like a light had lit up in their eyes, seeing what the fans did, the flares, the scarves, the flags, everything. Chris Rigg, I remember Riggy coming in and just looking like absolutely shocked, got his phone out, started filming it. Wilson came in with a huge smile on his face. Brian came in with a huge smile on his face. Enzo was loving it. Like, it was just brilliant to see. And then obviously everything that unfurled since then was just incredible. The moment that the lads found out on the pitch, because obviously I think a lot of people knew in the stands the way things were going, but as Dan Ballard later said to me in the tunnel, we don't get any we don't get any signal. I was like, all right, so you players as well as us in the stands then, yeah? And he said we didn't get it, and then literally a bar popped up on my phone, and I just happened to be in the middle of the huddle. And Riggy, who I interviewed post-match, I'll come back to that in a second, said exactly the same thing. And he said we just went mental. And honestly, I was filming it, and to see them kind of break away, Luke jumped on the advertising hoardings, Granite's just like, that kind of meme with the advert, just like that, looking up at the sky and everything. It's just an incredible moment and a guttural roar from the stadium. I mean, it was epic, absolutely epic to hear. And I mean, post-match, you've got all the lads walking. I say all the lads walking into the tunnel. Luke O'Nien stayed out. And I'll come back to that because we were meant to be interviewing him, with all due respect to Chris Ray. And all the players were coming in through the tunnel. And I was just, congratulating every one of them because, what a season. Incredible season for them all. And then I'm going into the interview room and I said to my floor manager, Kieran, I said, we're after Luke O'Nien. He was like, mate, Luke's still out on the pitch. I don't think he's back in at all. And Riggy I don't know if he'd done an interview, but he was hanging around the interview rooms and he just came over to me and was like, Andy, sorry, I think you've got me. I don't think Luke's coming back in. Luke was parading his two daughters around, I think, and just basically doing his 18th lap of honour around the Stadium of Light. And I was like, mate, A, let him do it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, let him go and celebrate. And two, never ever apologise for us having you for interview. You're a great lad. Let's have a chat. And for him to kind of say this is, a real underdog story, because my last question to him was like, for those people who said you were going to be relegated last season, what would you kind of say to them? He was like, and he looked away and then he looked back at me and he had a bit of a twinkle in his eye and I thought, who's going to say something here? And he said, nah, everyone loves a good underdog story, don't they? I was like, yeah, there you go. Nice one. I said, get your ass out there and go and celebrate and have some fun. But no, honestly, epic day, mate, epic achievement. And what that club did last season to put themselves in that position where they could enjoy that moment in the manner that they did. Stunning. Europa Conference League would have been enough, I think, for a lot of people. Europa League on top. I genuinely think Sunderland can do some damage in the Europa League next season. I genuinely feel like you can. Home form is everything in the Europa League. Forest showed it. Villa showed it. There are a few more intimidating places to go than the Stadium of Light in that Europa League next season.
Yeah, you talk, well, I think the first couple of away games are going to feel like home games, I think, because Sunderland are going to invade whatever city it's going to, potentially.
It's Milan, mate. We already know it. We already know it's going to be Milan away.
Well, we're getting on our way, the podcast we've already mentioned, we're getting prepared to play Hearts or something in the first game.
Yeah.
That's how it'll play out.
Yeah, but an Estonian team.
But going into the pre-season, I'd love that, by the way. The Estonian
Yeah.
team, that would be fantastic.
Go to Tallinn. Beautiful
Yeah,
place.
I've been there, absolutely fantastic. Can't imagine a full of Sunderland fans, but might see it one day. But
Will be by the end of the week.
be a few not getting home, I think. But
I know.
I saw you interviewed Florent Ghisolfi a couple of
Yes.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
The message he was putting across, he said, there's no limit, be Sunderland, I think. And he said the Sunderland fans deserve even better than this. Because I have actually said that, wait till next season we qualify for the Conference League and everyone's disappointed. But anyway, he did say there was a strange feeling because I had the feeling we could do even better
Yeah.
during the season. He doesn't speak too often. So how did you find him?
I really, really like Florent Ghisolfi, and I'll tell you exactly why. He is such a quiet, unassuming figure, but he carries with him, I think Gen Z use this word a lot, he carries with him an aura. Like, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, if you walk past him in the street, you didn't know who he was, you'd be like, just a very, very, very well dressed, by the way, individual I've just walked past in the middle of the street. It's fine. And he's just a very, very smiley, he epitomizes Sunderland at the moment. I used those words before. Very, very calm, very level-headed, very, very composed. And he just comes across, which is why I was quite surprised that, I mean, I'm not surprised. I back myself as an interviewer as far as I've done it for enough years, and I'd like to think I'm quite good at it by now. But I was quite surprised that he came up with that line about, you know what, like we could have done even better. And that was a really strong line. He had Tom Burwell alongside him, the interim CEO too. And Tom kind of almost didn't look at Florent, but like just gave a little bit of a, that's an interesting little line. And I think Keith at Sky was about to interview them after me. And I'm sure he made a quick note of that and was like, oh, I'll be asking the same question about it. But yeah, I just find him a really intriguing and a really fascinating person to speak to. It's my first time interviewing Flo. I've seen him a lot around the training ground. I chatted to him on the training ground in pre-season last year alongside Kirill. But I see him at the Stadium of Light all the time, and I'll say hi and I'll shake his hand, but that'll be about it. And to sit down with him for 10 minutes alongside Tom, who I found very, very enterprising as well, by the way, I just found him a really fascinating figure. And just to say that the fans deserve even better than this, and there is no limit to Sunderland, it's all well and good saying that. And there's a difference between people who say things and a difference between people who say them and mean them. And Florent Ghisolfi means it. Florent Ghisolfi, you can see, locked me completely. I'm sat about a metre away from him, and he locked me in the eyes and was like, that's it. There is no limit. Just be Sunderland because the fans deserve even better than this. And I rang my wife, as I normally do. I always ring Rebecca after an interview because usually she'll be like, right, what we doing for social media and all of this sort of thing. And I told her that straight away. I was like, that's the line, like straight away that, you know, I'm quite just surprised that he came up with. Just a really fascinating character. And honestly, the longer Florent Ghisolfi is at Sunderland, the further this club is going to go. Further this club is going to go. He's a fascinating character and a very, very, very interesting person to speak to, as is Tom as well. So, yeah, very, very interesting indeed. He also said we had to ask him a lot about Granite because I think we were doing a feature on Premier League about Granite at some point. I don't know, maybe some point in the future. So, yeah, he said a lot of really, really nice words about Granite as well, which I'm sure we'll come back to
Well,
in the next few minutes.
yeah, what a perfect segue, eh?
Because there you go.
Yeah, because everything's was positive after that Chelsea game. Fantastic day. And then, you know, everyone's just basking in everything being rosy in the garden of Sunderland. And then the transfer rumor broke over the socials through sources that I would say, let's say, new age sources, if you like. And then it broke with them, which I always find a little bit weird. But apparently they said that Chelsea won Granit Xhaka. And it makes sense with Xavi Alonso and the link there. And it does make sense for them with the makeup of their squad and all of that sort of stuff. But there's been radio silence since. Now, you know, obviously, you know, you're not someone who deals with rumors and things like that.
No.
But I was going to put it from an angle of sitting with Florent Ghisolfi and getting a feeling of what type of person he is. How do you think he would have made of this if Chelsea have reportedly made that bid?
I think he's quite a pragmatic sort of person, Chris, anyway. And I think Flo, not speaking for him, obviously, and barely know the man, but I think he would have looked at it and said, look, this is football. You know what the funny thing is, and not a lot of people are speaking about this because naturally they're shocked about the news at the weekend. I was shocked as well to hear that, given everything that Granit has said, which we'll come back to. But you know the thing that kind of not a lot of people are speaking about? Sunderland will have a plan. Like, I absolutely am under no illusion that Sunderland will have a plan because they always seem to at the moment, given anything with regards to the squad makeup, with regards to the transfers. They will have had probably a plan that they'll have to accelerate if Granit does indeed move to Stamford Bridge. But a plan there'll be people there that they will identify to replace him. Having said that, there is no, well, obviously there's no way because Sunderland have rejected this reported bid, but there is no way that Sunderland were ever going to let Granit Xhaka go for £8 million. All of the talk that I hear at the club, and thank you very, very much for kind of taking the words out of my mouth on that sense and say that I don't kind of deal in speculation and transfer gossip or anything like that. I deal in, facts and truth and everything. I'm very, very fortunate from my perspective as the Premier League reporter for the North East. But every bit of talk coming out of the club has been very much we want to keep Granit. There's rumours again of the £10 million bid, isn't there, going in? I mean, £10 million of Granit Xhaka. And I know you'll look at it and go, no, he's 33, all of this, moved out to London, be reunited with Xabi Alonso. Sure. Granit Xhaka is not worth £10 million in anyone's world. And it is a cheeky offer at best. And at worst, it's a bit of an insult, I think, to Sunderland and to Granit Xhaka's value as well as a football player. I touched upon it before, but I've just done a video that's gone out on my socials this morning about how the fact that I feel the North East clubs have every right to feel a little bit disrespected at the moment in terms of how their big players are being approached. Sandro Tonali at Newcastle and the Spurs regard Bruno Guimaraes has been linked with Arsenal too. And then this Granit Xhaka situation at Chelsea. So I think there is a little bit of disrespect there towards the North East club. So feel free if anyone wants to hear me go on a bit of a rant and be very, very fiercely passionate and protective and defensive over my North East, as I always will be in my life, then feel free to go and check it out on socials. But that's my reaction. Florent Ghisolfi's reaction, I think, will be very, very much, let's get down to the bottom of this. Let's have a chat with Granit. Let's see where he lands, because Granit is obviously still captaining his country at the World Cup. For anyone who's turned around saying, why isn't Granit come out and shut down these rumours? He's a bit busy. He's a bit busy at the minute. And I think it's only fair. And I also had a lot of people kind of say, well, he's lied. He's lied throughout the course of the season and he's lied in his speech. I don't buy that personally. And I'm going to defend Granit Xhaka here. I think I've said this actually on this podcast as well. Granit Xhaka is one of the most honest and most honourable footballers, I think, I've met, given his upbringing, given everything he's been through in his life, given everything he's learned across the course of his life. And when I've sit down and talked to him this season on several different occasions, I have found a man who respects, who loves, and who, really, really is appreciative of what Sunderland have done for him as well. And I don't think that those words said in an interview were a lie. I think he was being dead honest about those things. And I think the speech that he gave at the end of the Chelsea game on the final day of the season was completely true as well. I just think in football, a lot happens very, very quickly. And Xabi Alonso obviously was confirmed as Chelsea manager. It's a big lure for him. Obviously, he's very, very good friends with Xabi and what they've achieved together at Bayer Leverkusen. There will be no smoke without fire. There's, of course, Chelsea interest in there because Granit is a fine player. But also a part of me would not be surprised to see Granit Xhaka stay at Sunderland. I would not mistake his silence for anything other than he is 100% focusing on what's happening at Switzerland. As soon as Switzerland come out, if 2 weeks go by without him commenting or without anything else happening, then I think there could be a conversation to be had. But I genuinely feel like he has not lied. He has not been dishonest. I think he has said everything he feels from his heart about Sunderland before. And whatever happens, would it be nice if Granit Xhaka goes to Chelsea? No, of course it wouldn't. He's as close to irreplaceable, I think, as a player can get for Sunderland at the moment, regardless of being 33 and supposedly in the twilight of his career, which I heard someone say the other day, despite covering the most meters in the Premier League last season, but whatever. But he's practically irreplaceable for Sunderland at the moment. But I also feel like there'll be a plan in place just in case he does go. I just don't think that this race has been run yet. I don't particularly like the way it's come out. I'll be honest, without naming names, pretty sure a lot of people know who I'm referring to, but there are certain people in the media world these days who maybe are calling themselves journalists and aren't doing the job that journalists should do. And I don't like the way that's come out. I don't like the way it's happened. And that's happened at Newcastle and it's happened at Sunderland. It's weird how Sunderland and Newcastle fans have ended up sympathising with each other a little bit.
Yeah.
In both instances, it's kind of unified the North East football scene a little bit. Yeah, it's just a bit disrespectful what's happened. But like I said, things have changed quickly, I think, in a month. Things can change very, very quickly again in a week or two. But I don't think there'll be any panic from Florent Ghisolfi. I don't think there'll be any panic from Sunderland. I think we'll get to the bottom of it. And I feel whichever way this works out, Sunderland will be fine.
Yeah. And I've said on another pod pretty much what you've said in terms of that he said what he felt in the moment. He's that sort of player. He's that sort of person.
Yeah.
And I've said that. That is where my head is at with everything, with the whole thing. But just to play devil's advocate on what
go for it.
on that point of view, because a lot of Sunderland fans do feel betrayed. If someone
Rightly so.
turns around and says, "I promise this," and look, I'm sure the adrenaline was pumping and it was a huge day and everyone was in the moment and he probably didn't see this coming, which I've said previously as well.
Yeah.
But you can see that how much he keeps repeating that he loves it and wants to stay here and all this. And especially he's the example. All the players should hold themselves up to him. Now, if it turns out to even have an element of truth that he wanted this move and he stays at Sunderland, then how can the players and the fans look at him in the same way?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, it's a hypothetical situation, of course, but I take your point on board and I totally understand where the fans are coming from. I did a video the other day talking about how, there was a lot of fans getting in touch with me and saying, what's the updates on Granit, Andy? Like, what's happening from behind the scenes? And being the person who doesn't have, I don't have contacts, but I don't have those kind of in the know contacts. I can only speak as I find it. And I feel sorry for the Sunderland fans. I not to sound like a martyr or anything like that, or, overly sympathetic, but I feel sorry. This is the captain. This is the talisman. This is the person has bought into Sunderland in the same way that Sunderland has bought into him. And to hear your captain potentially wanting a move away to Chelsea, a team that Sunderland finished above, let's not forget, last season, and have no European football next season, and a new manager in Xabi Alonso, as good as a manager as he is, I think I understand totally where the Sunderland fans are coming from in terms of betrayal. I just would also say, just wait to see what comes out from Granit's side without making assumptions on this one. I totally take your point on board, Chris. Look, it's a tough situation to be in. What happens if he does go, having said all of those things? Yeah, I'm sure there's certain players who will look at that and go, we're not particularly happy at how that's played out, but they'll also accept that that's football to an extent. And these things do happen. And I think it's a phrase that gets mentioned a lot around Sunderland, but I think it's a case of trusting the process too, and trusting the people above them, trusting in Regis, trusting in Florent, and the people who are going to bring in a potential replacement for Granit, maybe strengthening other areas of the squad if they get a big fee for him. I think it's just a case of trusting the process off the pitch. But sure, is it a good look if he said all of those things and ends up going regardless of whether he meant them in the heat of the moment or not? Of course not. It's not good optics whatsoever. All I can say is, and I said this on socials, all I can say is how I find with Granit, and that is a very, very honest, a very, very kind of honourable sort of human being, as well as a footballer. And if he'd wanted to go to Chelsea on the final day of the season and knew of any interest, he would not have said those things, adrenaline or no adrenaline, I highly doubt. But football changes things very, very quickly. And I think that's what's happened maybe over the last couple of weeks or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to get back to a positive, just on the bizarre strip launch that Sunderland have had.
Yes! I knew you were going to say this. I wanted you to talk about Elvis Presley, Chris. Good man. I thought when you said bizarre, I'm like, where are you going with it? But Elvis Presley, let's go.
Who would have thought you'd have been reporting on Sunderland, a collaboration between Sunderland AFC and Elvis Presley?
Mate, I've become some sort of weird unofficial ambassador of Graceland in between Sunderland and Elvis Presley, given the video that I put out the other week. I've had Visit Graceland repost it. I had Gene Gallagher, which was a blooming pinch me moment, go and repost it on Instagram. I was like, Oasis, like my favourite band of all time. Gene Gallagher is getting involved with it. But yeah, it's mental, isn't it? I had Americans in my direct messages literally saying, we love the look of Sunderland. We love the northeast of England. And I'm like, blooming great. Happy day. Being an Elvis fan supersedes people's love for their teams even. I've had Brentford fans messages. Love that strip. Love Elvis Presley. Sorry, you were going to ask a question. I just got really excited.
Well, I think you pretty much answered it. But I mean,
all right, okay, I'll go back to it.
It's a clever move, though, isn't it?
Mate, so clever. So clever. What a PR move. I mean, look, it's a microcosm, of course, but even just one look at my socials over the last week or two since I did those videos about it, and to see the reach that it has and just the nuances as well. I know we'll come on to the design of the kit in a second and the colour of it and everything, which also I think is nice. But the nuances of it being released on the 26th of June, clever move. You know, going out for sale in Graceland, you know, in his home place. Absolutely super clever when Sunderland are doing an American tour. And Tom Burwell said something to me in that interview. We sat down with him and Flo, and he said, we want to export Sunderland to the world. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, it's a bit grandiose to say that. Now I know exactly what he means because they've nailed it with this. They have it is so bloody cool. It's a first ever in the Premier League to see someone do that. And yes, people will have their opinions about the strip and the training kit and everything, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I quite like it. I like the fact that it's pink. I like the fact that it's different. But just some of the nuances going into it is incredible. And then, you know, to kind of open up my socials every morning and be like, oh, Rebecca's like, Visit Graceland have just liked your post. I'm like, Elvis Presley's ex-girlfriend have reposted it in their stories. And I'm like, this is madness. So what is Sunderland feeling like at the moment with all of this going out? So yeah, an incredible move from the club. Really clever, forward thinking that just epitomizes everything Sunderland are about at the moment, whether it be PR, marketing, communications, on the pitch, off the pitch, with the fans, with the community. Chris, they just seem to get everything right at the minute. And that's where that trust the process comes in. But honestly, the Elvis kit, so blooming good. And to hear, you know, fans of Brentford and Leeds, even Newcastle fans are turning around and going, it's a clever move, but also it's a nice kit that. I had a bloody Leeds fan drop into me DMs the other day going, where can I buy that, Andy? I don't buy it from the club shop if you want. You're a Leeds fan. You can buy whatever you like. But the fact that it supersedes people's loves for their own teams and they're like, Elvis Presley in a Premier League club, love it. They've nailed it. It's 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Do you like it, Chris, or not?
Oh, I do. Love it.
You do like the kit?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because we were talking about it the other day. It's one of those, it's actually a top that if it didn't have the Sunderland badge on or something like that, you could see someone going, you know, few drinks down the beach or something on a nice day on the seafront.
So true. Can work in both ways. Rebecca, my wife, right, said this, and no truer word was said. She was like, in 20 years, that top will be absolutely iconic. That top will be a retro. Like, you know how people are parading around in like France 98 shirts at the moment, like Japan 98 shirts. That will be one of those tops in 20 years. And she's as she always is, she was completely right. I hope she watches this, by the way. That's brownie points for me. Out the dugout. But she was completely right. That's going to be one of those shirts that people look back on and go, all right, did we 100% like the design at the time? Maybe not. I don't know. I really like the design. But they'll look at it and go, you know what? It's iconic. It's iconic, isn't it? Elvis Presley collaborating with Sunderland. Think back to League One.
Yeah.
What?
But especially the fact that it's got no sponsor on in this first release, which makes it a top you can just wear and knock about in. It doesn't really make it a football top. The other thing is, as soon as we play in that first away game in Europe in this top, I mean, that's it. That seals the deal, doesn't it?
It makes it go across Europe. I mean, you know, this is not one of those things where I'm struggling desperately to think of, sorry, this is going to sound so harsh, and it's not meant to be. I just couldn't think of many bands from Sunderland. The Futureheads, for instance, right? So this isn't like just doing a collaboration with the Futureheads, as good as a band as they are. this is Elvis bloody Presley. This is like worldwide. Like, this is history. This is like the Beatles-esque. This is an incredible collaboration that just transcends football and sport. And going into Europe and kind of people going, it's a bit of a different top Sunderland are wearing, having a little look at that. Maybe, I don't know, stumbling across me video or whatever on social media, finding out the different nuances and the different reasons for doing it. It is such a clever, clever move from Sunderland. And obviously it's one of the first of several things that are going to come out with regards to Elvis and the collaboration with Sunderland. So great on them. I mean, honestly, I hope everyone in the marketing department at Sunderland went out and got absolutely hammered on the 26th of June when it got released and just went, great job, guys. Let's go and do some karaoke and let's sing Can't Help Falling in Love with You for the rest of the night. You know, brilliant job. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just so glad you came up with it. I just really want to drop into the podcast that I was dead happy that Visit Graceland and Gene Gallagher decided to drop onto my Instagram at some random way. Social media can be awful, but it can be blooming great, Chris, I tell you.
Absolutely. Completely nailed it on that front. But you did talk, we have mentioned, look, it is going to be an adventure with our European adventure, I suppose, this year. And the club are going to have to prepare for that. Of course, we're doing it off the pitch. But if we compare this summer maybe to last summer, when we're preparing for that new challenge of the Premier League, do you think maybe we're going to be a bit more targeted and it's going to be down to maybe boosting the numbers a bit for the extra games?
Yeah, Flo touched upon this last 2 weeks ago, Chris. So he basically said it's all about stability. And I mean, it's funny given the rumours coming out about Granite when you've talked about stability, I guess. But he wouldn't have been aware of that, obviously, at the time. I think it's just a case of maybe identifying certain areas that Sunderland need a little bit of improvement on. I think, obviously, the future of Lusherel here Trouders up for grabs at the moment. So there'll need to be a little bit of targeted improvement in the defence. I think obviously a winger will probably come in, although I really think Nilsson Angulo is going to have an excellent season. I think he's been brilliant in the World Cup, by the way, or had been brilliant in the World Cup. So I think maybe a little bit of targeted improvement there. Obviously, whether Wilson, Eliza, even Brian are going to be at the club next year. I would very much like to hope that Brian is going to be at the club. I think he's been superb again at the World Cup. But there's just going to be little additions, little changes. Yes, the squad depth is going to need a little bit of work. Obviously, the likes of Dan Neil has now departed, confirmed with Rangers today. There's players that are going to be missing there potentially. I think midfield needs a little bit of depth too. So I think there's not going to be like 14 signings, of course not. But I think there'll be 5 or 6 signings this summer. And I think there'll be very, very astute signings as well. But I think Sunderland will be really, really boosted by what has happened at the World Cup. I mean, to take more players to the World Cup than Real Madrid is insane, by the way. But, Nilsson I've mentioned already. Brian's been really good for Netherlands. That story about him and his brother, just incredible, by the way. I've never heard of anything like that. Chedemstein, obviously, for Morocco. Wilson doing a great job for Haiti. Noah for Congo. We'll see how it goes tonight. They've all done really, really good jobs at the World Cup. And I think it's just kind of proven that Sunderland are such good operators now in the transfer market that I can guarantee they'll make 5 or 6 signings, of which I've heard of maybe 2 of them by the end of the summer. And we'll end up talking about them in September or October in the Europa League, being like, they've done it again, they've done it again. So yeah, I think there's already one I was looking this morning, is it Italy? A lad out of Italy, a fullback out of Italy that they're looking at, who has come very, very highly rated indeed. So yeah, there's already a few whisperings going on, and they'll have had their plan since early part of 2026 into how they strengthen this summer. They'll plan for all eventualities, and I think it'll be a really exciting summer, but probably not on the same level. Don't think it's possible, is it, to hit the same levels of excitement as 2020 summer 2025? But yeah, just trust the process with it. I think they've got a real good plan in place there.
Yeah, well, like I said up top, it does feel like the calm before the storm. But you mentioned Siddiqui playing against England, and I think there's going to be a few conflicted Sunderland fans out there wondering, whether Siddiqui has a good game and England still win and all that, all the permutations.
I know. I'm watching it in a Newcastle pub tonight, so I imagine every time he touches the ball, bless him, he's going to get a big boo from wherever I end up watching it with my brother. But at the same time, look, I think he's been really, really good in the World Cup. I think he's been excellent. He's shown his form for what he has done for Sunderland all the way through the season. But yeah, I can imagine there's going to be quite a few people watching. I'm going to be watching on with interest from his perspective, just because I just like him as a bloke as well as a player. And I want him to do well. Do I want Congo to knock out England? No. Do I think England could well get knocked out anyway next round? Yes. By Mexico in Mexico. That's as tough a test, I think, as they come in world football, apart from facing France these days. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one tonight. I think Congo are going to run England very, very close indeed. England have not hit their straps at all in the World Cup, apart from maybe 25 minutes against Croatia. So I think Noah and the rest of the DR Congo, is Johan Wisser as well at Newcastle. He's been very, very good this World Cup. So I think it might be interesting to see how things go down tonight, but I still back England to just about edge it and move through to the last 16 against Mexico, which would be very interesting. Taking on Mexico, the team, Mexico, the country, and one duck.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But just last one before we go, Andy. So,
yes,
how does the rest of the summer play out for you? Does it start ramping up, or do you get into it? Does it go bang on a certain day? I mean, how do you get back into it all?
No, I think it'll be just eased back in, mate, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'm keeping my ear close to the ground with various things. So, like I was saying to you off camera, I'm trying to do a lot of work in terms of socials at the minute. And just, you know my kind of style, bringing a bit more of a humanistic approach to things rather than just endless transfer gossip or speculation. It's very, very much commenting on it from my perspective and offering truth and fact and my own opinion on things. So I'll be doing a lot on socials, on my TikTok, on my Instagram and YouTube, etc. So any Sunderland fan can keep an eye out on them. They're not going to stop anytime soon. And as far as I'm concerned, from a perspective of work, I've got the cricket hosting that ends, unless Durham get further in the competition, on the 10th of July on the T20. So after that, take a week, go and visit the in-laws for a week. And then come back and get ready for pre-season, mate. We'll be doing a few interviews, I imagine, with the guys at Newcastle and Sunderland. Obviously, it's a little bit different with the World Cup ending on the 19th, so things get put back a little bit ahead of the 22nd, I think is the kickoff, obviously, isn't it, for the Premier League season. But as soon as August rolls round, things are going to get very, very busy indeed, mate. Pre-seasons, media access days, which are always a dead laugh, and obviously all of the transfers that are going to be quite busy. I think Newcastle and Sunderland have to be busy in the transfer market. So, it's going to be a real busy sort of time for me, but it's a weird one. As soon as I'm done for 10, 14 days, I'm like, chuck me straight back into it, man. I miss seeing Regis Labrisse's little face on a Thursday afternoon or whatever. I miss seeing Eddie at Newcastle. I miss seeing the players as well. And I'm interested to kind of meet the new players, whoever they might be too. So, really looking forward to getting back into it. But I'm not going to lie. I'm one of these people that also values my private time and my family and everything. And I like to spend a little bit of time just switching off away from football too. So, it's been nice to have that. But I imagine in the next week or two, I'll be champing at the bit, ready to get back into it. And, probably waiting another 12 months for me to invite back onto the Europa Report.
Just had to throw that in before you finished. I was just feeling good about it then. But
mate, I'll still be talking about Elvis Presley by then, so don't you worry. Me and Gene Gallagher and me and Visit Graceland will be best mates on social media. And I'll be like, you know what? Sorry about the motorbike that's just absolutely blown a gasket outside my window. I'll be still banging on about it then I'll be like, I'm in an official ambassadorial role between the northeast of England and Graceland in Memphis by that point. But by then I'll probably have shut up by not being invited back onto the podcast.
I was just about to say what a brilliant place to finish, but I just once again just want to say absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Andy. Much appreciate your time, and I do promise. If you'll have us, that we will not leave it as long next time.
No worries, mate.
Absolutely
Listen,
brilliant.
Like I always say, keep up the good work. You guys do an absolutely splendid job at the Europa Report all the way through the season, all the way through the off-season. The hours that you put in, the content that you provide, absolutely invaluable to North East football and to Sunderland fans. Just keep doing the great job. You guys are absolutely tremendous. And as ever, it's always a pleasure to be on chatting.
Good stuff, and thanks again. And I will get you that bung that I gave you for those words. So thank you very much.
Just get my surname right, mate. I'll accept that on its own.
I will one of these days, and when I do, I'll be all over it. But I really appreciate it, Andy. Thanks again, and thanks again, everyone, for listening. Look, we'll have everything covered as always on the Europa Report website and our daily releases on How We're the Podcast, where I'm sure there might be more talk about a certain midfielder, but we'll see how long it is before all of this plays out. But from us, it's bye for now.